Hi, you guys. This is Juan Pablo Contreras Barriga again, and I'm going to talk about the importance that has designing material. Okay, we have to design material for English, I'm sorry, for Spanish as a foreign language. And we need to talk about the design of the material, non-authentic material. When we are teaching a lesson, in this case, in Spanish as a foreign language, we need to choose, adapt, and create the material that is going to be guided, didactically speaking. And it needs to have a purpose, and it needs to be taken into consideration many factors. Some of them are the context, the level of the students, their interest, and the approach, the learning approach that we are trying to conceive with our students. In this case, let me begin with didactic material. Didactic material has a fundamental role in the learning process since they allow the teacher to make the classes more fun and interactive. Like we were discussing at the beginning, when we are designing the material, when we are choosing what kind of resources we're going to imply in our class, we need to take into consideration the level of our students, their ages, the learning objective, the purpose, the context, and their likes and dislikes. If it's possible, also the technology that we're going to use in the classroom, if they are more suitable or if they need a second hand on that cases. When designing the teaching material, some factors need to be considered, like we were talking about. Those are the students, we were mentioning the level, their interests, the learning approaches, or multiple intelligence even also can be included. The purpose of the lesson, the context, and the time. How much are we going to expand our lesson? If it's going to be 50 minutes, if it's going to be more. So we need to take that into consideration. I will include also that we may use it online, so we can also adapt the material that we are going to analyze and adapt it with our students. Okay, if it's an online class, we may have some links, some websites that we can use, or maybe some videos or pictures or the handouts that we're going to create. If they can download it or online, they can fulfill the activity. The students, when we are knowing the students, it is crucial to the designer to identify their needs, the language proficiency that they have, the aspiration, their interests, and their learning styles. They can be visual, they can be auditive, they can be kinesthetic. So we need to identify those kind of cognitive development skills or cognitive skills that we need to promote, and how can we approach them. In this case, if they need only to understand some phrases or words to communicate a greeting or asking for a service or introducing themselves or introducing a friend. So we may need to understand those kinds of necessities and use that in Spanish, okay? We can teach them. If they're gonna be children, maybe we can start with those points. If they're young adults, there are also another points to consider. Their aspirations, if they are young adults, they will need to learn the language, maybe to communicate, or they are trying to read and comprehend instructions, or maybe they're working in a company that asks them or requires to speak Spanish. So we need to take those things into consideration. And more importantly, we're talking about their interests, okay? What do they like to do, if they like to have hobbies, or if they are more into movies, or maybe to songs, or we can maybe approach them culturally from their own countries. So maybe we can exchange some information between the foreign students that they are having this interaction, maybe online. So that's important and crucial to understand as students. Also the context, I think this is very necessary to in this case, for us to consider, right? The context. Material has to be created according to the student's context and using the resources that may be available for them and the teacher. We cannot design a class and expect that everything works perfectly 100%. There are going to be mistakes, and there are going to be necessities that needs to be fulfilled. And in these cases, we are needing to rethink the designing, take into consideration those kind of elements. In my country, in my home, where do I live, there's a problem sometimes with the power connection, or maybe with the Wi-Fi connection. And that's an issue sometimes when we were having online classes. So we need to take that obviously as a factor. The technological one, we cannot escape from them. It's there and we need to be prepared. Okay, so that's a situation for me as a teacher that I need to consider when I'm teaching online classes, to be very aware of the context that I'm using, my Wi-Fi connection, if it's up to the level that I am expecting to use, and so forth, and more situations to come. The purpose, when I'm designing material, I need to take into consideration the purpose. In this case, the content of the material, it must serve to meet the objectives. That's very interesting and necessary to point out. The material that I'm using, it has a vision that may be created by the author that I am using the resource for my lesson, or if I am creating the material on my own, or maybe adapting it. So I must take into consideration this kind of observation. This content, it is implied for me for the objective. The content will lead for me and my students, where do I expect them for them to go, or if they're going to build on their own knowledge, if they're going to work between themselves, if they're going to collaborate them within the activity, maybe guided from me, or having an independent practice on their own. The timing for the activities are also very important to take into consideration. They need to have the ability, and more importantly, the ability already work. They have to be familiarized with what they're going to do. That's the required time. And this is how it is supposed to be more clear for them, because they're going to have experience. So that's the time into place here. That's the time where we need to take into consideration, because they need to understand how long will it take for them to develop an activity. And we as designers, we need to consider time as a very important factor for this. The time availability to carry out the activities, it is crucial, since it will indicate how much work they leave. But it's also essential to consider that the time is for the completion of the material. So they need to understand that when we're designing it, how much time it will take for us to develop all the activities, or for the students to practice on their own, or if they're going to do something on themselves, if they're going to collaborate, how much time will it take to finish the activity. So that will be all for today. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you the next time. Bye.